Subscribe to my YouTube channel, share it with your friends, and comment your thoughts. The cold mouth in the wall. She woke up in the dark, breath ragged, arms pinned to her sides. The first thing she noticed was the smell, like something sweet gone wrong. Rotting honey. Then the sound, a whisper, wet and too close. Found you. Her. Name was Ava. She was 32. She lived alone. And this, wherever she was not her apartment. Her legs couldn't move. Her skin touched something rough. Not rope, not cloth, wood. Narrow walls, tightly packed. And then she realized she wasn't lying down. She was upright, standing as in a box. A coffin, panic bloomed in her chest like fire. Her mouth opened to scream, but only managed a dry choke. She clawed at the space above her. Her fingers hit splinters. That's when the whisper came again. But this time it was behind her ear. You said you wanted to disappear. Ava began to thrash. She banged her head back, forward, sideways, slamming against the enclosure like a trapped animal. Her nails tore at the wood. She screamed until her throat blistered. No echo, no response. Then something shifted. A gust of air blew across her face, impossibly cold. The front panel of the box opened just a few inches, as if someone pulled it outward, slowly, deliberately. Light spilled through, not daylight, candlelight. She stared through the crack. What she saw made her heart stall. It was a room, small, stone, damp, and sitting on the floor, just beyond the box, was a man with no eyes, just stitched eyelids and a smile far too wide. He was gently rocking a bundle in his arms. A bundle, wrapped in plastic, leaking something dark. He didn't speak, just pointed. Ava looked to where his hand was aimed. There was a mirror, old, cracked, freestanding, and in the mirror she saw herself, but she was sitting, smiling, not in the box. Her reflection tilted its head and mouthed, "Don't ruin it this time." Ava screamed again, louder, and kicked the door. It creaked open farther. She stumbled out, legs numb, hitting the cold stone floor with a thud. The man with stitched eyes didn't move. He just kept rocking the bundle. She crawled toward the mirror. Her reflection stayed seated, watching, lips still curled. There was no candle in her version of the room, no eyeless man, just that chair. And the darkness behind it. Ava reached for the mirror's surface. Her fingers passed through it. The chill that gripped her arm felt like it would snap her bones. Suddenly, the bundle in the man's lap began to move, squirm, cry. The sound. It was Ava's voice, a broken, high-pitched version of it. A childlike version. She ripped her arm back, scrambled to her feet and ran. There was only one door in the room, not a normal door, but a jagged square cut into the stone. No handle, just a hollow. Beyond it, a pitch-black hallway stretched, endlessly, but anything was better than here. She ran 5 hours earlier. Ava had been on the train coming home from her second therapy session. She hadn't wanted to go, but her sister Claire had insisted, said the nightmares were getting worse, that Ava was starting to forget things, like entire days. That afternoon, Ava had dozed off for just a moment, just one blink, as the train rumbled through a tunnel. When she opened her eyes again, the car was empty, no passengers, no conductor. No lights, just her. And on the seat across from her, a single object, a wooden box. Inside it, a small mirror and a folded note. The note read, "You said you wanted to know what happened to you. Are you sure?" She had whispered yes without even meaning to. Then the train screeched and the world tilted sideways, and now she was here, wherever here was. Ava kept moving through the hallway, each step echoing like a gunshot. The air grew colder. Her skin stung. She passed doors, all nailed shut, splattered with something black and tar-like. From behind one, she heard a soft voice counting 1, 2. "He's coming for you." She didn't look back. She didn't stop until the hallway ended in a spiral staircase, descending into darkness. She hesitated, the mirror back in the stone room. It had shown her smiling, sitting, like she belonged here, like she chose this and the man, the bundle. No time to think. Ava started down the stairs. Every step creaked, even though the steps were stone. The deeper she went, the louder the creaking grew, until it sounded like it was coming from below her feet or inside them. The staircase ended in a vast underground chamber lit by oil lamps. It looked like a chapel, but wrong. Instead of pews, there were rows of wooden high chairs. Instead of a pulpit, there was a hole in the floor, and above the hole, suspended by ropes, was Claire. Eyes closed, lips stitched. Ava gasped. Then, suddenly, Claire opened her eyes. Tears streamed down her face. She mouthed something Ava couldn't. Quite red. Then the whisper returned, this time from inside Ava's head. "Say it!" She stumbled backward, shaking. "Say what?" The voice pressed in harder. "Say it! Say what you did!" I didn't do anything," she cried out. The lights flickered. The walls began to weep, thick trails of blood running down ancient bricks. The ropes holding Claire creaked. Then Ava remembered. The lake, the fight, the storm, the scream, the silence. Ava had driven the car. She was the one who couldn't pull Claire out of the water in time. Or maybe she didn't try hard enough. The truth cracked open inside her like lightning. She fell to her knees. "I'm sorry," she whispered. The voice responded, "Too late." The rope snapped. Claire's body fell into the hole. Ava crawled to the edge, screaming her name, but the pit was bottomless, just darkness. Behind her, all the high chairs turned inward, as if invisible children now sat in them. And then, every chair squeaked as something climbed down from them. Ava stood. She backed away. Footsteps pattered all around her, soft, fast, and many. Then a cold hand slipped into hers. She looked down. It was a child, pale, eyeless, mouth sewn shut. The child lifted her arm and pointed behind Ava. Slowly, Ava turned. The mirror was there again, but this time the reflection wasn't hers. It was Claire's. Claire sat in a chair, smiling now, and in her lap, Ava's body, small, plastic-wrapped. Still, the mirror whispered, "You brought this on yourself." The child tugged her hand. Then the lights went out. Darkness swallowed everything, and from the hole, something began to climb up. The thing that remembers Ava couldn't scream. She wanted to. Every part of her should have. But the terror was too deep, too complete, like something had unplugged the scream from her throat before it ever reached her lips. Something was climbing out of the pit. She could hear it now, wet, slapping sounds against stone, slow and deliberate, not crawling, pulling. Itself, bone on rock, nails on concrete. She turned to run, dragging the small, eyeless child with her. But the chamber around her had changed. No staircase, no chairs, no altar, only doors, 10 of them, all different shapes. Some made of rusted iron, others warped wood or cracked glass. One was made of what looked like animal skin, still twitching. Another had no handle at all, just a mouth carved into the wood, whispering. Behind her, something hissed. "You opened the mirror. Now you belong to the rooms." The child squeezed her hand tighter. Its sewn lips didn't move, but she heard it anyway. "Pick the right one, or it takes you." Ava's heart pounded so hard she felt it in her fingertips. She scanned the doors, but none of them made sense. Suddenly, a voice echoed from behind. The farthest door on the left, it was Claire, sobbing, whispering, "Ava, I'm not dead. You left me." "No," Ava whispered. "That's not real. That's not—" But the child was gone, vanished. Just an empty space beside her, and the smell of something cold and metallic. Then she heard the pit behind her go. Silent. Whatever had been climbing wasn't anymore. It was watching. She ran for the leftmost door and threw it open. Inside, there was no room, just a hallway, pristine, white, flickering with fluorescent light. And at the end of the hall, standing perfectly still, was her therapist, Dr. Maddox. Only something was wrong. He was wearing the same clothes he'd worn the day she first came in. Same tie, same jacket. But his face was blank. No expression. His eyes entirely black. Ava took a step forward, trembling. "What is this?" The lights above began to pop one by one, in a straight line toward her. Dr. Maddox raised one hand and pointed behind her. She turned and saw the mirror again, floating mid-air, cracked, flickering. It showed her, asleep on a hospital bed. Machines beeped, IV lines. A nurse adjusting something, and beside the bed, Claire, alive, holding Ava's hand, saying something Ava couldn't hear. The mirror whispered, "You were supposed to stay gone." "You said yes." Ava stumbled backward, slamming into the hallway wall. It rippled like water. Dr. Maddox spoke for the first time, but his voice came from everywhere, deep and distorted. "Tell me what you saw at the lake." She shook her head violently. "I don't remember." Liar. The hallway vanished. Now, she was standing in the lake, not at it, in it up to her waist. The water black and still except for the ripples around her. Moonlight above. Fog, thick like smoke. In front of her, floating just above the surface, was the wooden box from the train, open. Inside, the mirror again, and a second note. She reached in, hands shaking, and unfolded it. This time, the handwriting was hers. "You said if you could go back, you'd trade places. You said you'd die for her. You lied." Something grabbed her ankle. She screamed, kicked, thrashed, but it pulled her under. Water filled her lungs. Light disappeared. And just as she began to black out, she landed hard on floorboards, choking, coughing. She was back in her childhood home, the old lake cabin her father left them before he vanished. Same peeling wallpaper, same creaking steps. Except now, every photo on the wall showed her, just her, in moments that never happened. Ava graduating from college, but in a dress she never owned. Ava smiling with 2 parents. Her mother died when she was 8. Ava, pregnant. With Claire standing behind her, grinning, holding a knife, she backed away, knocking one of the frames off the wall. The glass shattered. Blood spilled out of the frame. From upstairs, a lullaby began to play, music box soft, out of tune. Claire's voice, humming it the way she did when they were kids. Then thudding footsteps, not down the stairs, on the ceiling. Something was crawling across it. Fast, heavy, Ava ran into the kitchen, but the layout had changed. No windows, no doors, just a fridge. One single fridge in the center of the room. She opened it. Inside, stacked in neat rows, hundreds of baby teeth. All still bloody, each labeled with a name, and on the top shelf, one small beating heart in a glass jar. The label, Ava M. Winters. She dropped it. It didn't shatter. It screamed. The lights burst. Darkness again. In the pitch black, she felt hands on her. Hundreds of them, pulling her backward, into the floor, into the wood, into memory. She was in the car again. Rain hammering the windshield, the road slick. Claire beside her, sobbing, clutching something to her chest. "Don't stop," Claire kept saying. "Just drive, don't look back." But Ava did look back. In the back seat, a shadow. A figure with no face, sitting calmly, watching. Then the crash. The impact threw them into the lake. She screamed Claire's name as the car filled. Claire was trapped, and Ava swam away, back to shore, because something whispered in her head. "It's her or you." Now, back in the present, Ava screamed into the dark. "I didn't mean to. I wanted to save her." But the darkness whispered back, "You left her. You live now with what comes." The floor beneath her gave way, and she dropped into fire. This wasn't hell, not exactly. It was a library. Endless bookshelves, all burning, and the books, each one had her name on the spine. She pulled one down, flipped through pages. They were diaries, pages of her life, but rewritten, distorted, full of cruelty she didn't remember. "I never said these things," she whispered, but the voice beside her did. It was Claire, her skin burned, her hair ash, her eyes gone, but she smiled. "You will say them, you will do worse. The rooms don't let you go back clean." Ava fell to her knees. "I'll do anything," she sobbed. "Please, let me fix this." Claire knelt beside her, placed one charred hand over Ava's heart, then leaned in and whispered, "Then take my place." The fire vanished. Now Ava stood alone. Back on the train. It was morning, sunlight through the windows, passengers boarding. She blinked, breath catching. Had it all been a dream? She reached into her coat pocket. The wooden box was there. Inside, no mirror, no note, just a key and a folded scrap of paper. "You took her place. Now remember what she saw." As the train began to move, Ava caught her reflection in the window. She was smiling, but her eyes weren't hers. They were Claire's, and behind her no one else noticed that the seat across from her was bleeding. The things we bury Ava didn't remember getting off the train. One moment she was watching the trees blur past through fogged glass. The next, she was standing in the middle of a gravel road surrounded by thick, ancient woods. No tracks, no train, just silence that pressed on her skull like water pressure, dense and unnatural. She was holding something, the wooden box, still warm in her hands, breathing, no, pulsing. She opened it. The key was gone. Now, inside, a tooth. Tiny, yellowed, baby-sized, wrapped in hair. Ava dropped the box with a cry and stumbled back. The trees leaned toward her, almost as if they'd heard her scream. Then she saw it. A house up ahead, a place she hadn't seen in years. One she'd deliberately erased from memory. Her grandfather's farmhouse. It had burned down when she was 12. No one ever found out how. Her grandfather had never been seen again after that night. But here it was. Whole, pristine, glowing faintly under the grey sky, like it was drawn out of memory instead of built. The front door stood open. Of course it did. Ava stepped inside. The moment she crossed the threshold, the world changed again. The house darkened. Every window went black. The smell hit her first. Wet soil, rotting wood, something sweet and sick underneath, like old jam in a rusted can. Then the voices started, faint, whispering. "Why did you open it? You were supposed to forget. You promised us." Ava moved through the hallway, brushing her fingers along the wall. The wallpaper was moving, pulsing like skin, breathing in and out. She reached the living room, where the fireplace used. To be, there was now a large mirror, oval, cracked, identical to the one in the train box. Except now, the glass was black, reflecting nothing. She stepped closer, heart hammering, breath sharp. Her reflection blinked into view. Except it wasn't her. It was Claire. Not the real Claire. Not even the burnt one from the library. This one was younger, smiling, beautiful, wearing the old green hoodie she used to steal from Ava when they were kids. Claire's lips moved, but Ava heard the words inside her skull. "Do you want to see what really happened?" "No," Ava whispered, but her hand reached forward anyway, touched the glass. Everything changed. She was 10 again, sitting in the farmhouse basement holding a dead rabbit. Claire beside her, face pale, trying not to cry. They'd found it on the road that morning. Ava had told her they could save it, that if they said the right words, did what Grandpa did in the basement at night, it might come back. They'd watched him once. Through the floor vent, he'd drawn a circle, whispered things, burned teeth and hair in a jar of honey. He'd never seen them watching until later. He told them it was just old family business. He made them swear not to tell their mother. He made them promise. Now they were mimicking it. Ava had drawn the circle in chalk, cut a lock of Claire's hair, whispered the only word she remembered hearing him say, "Revenant." The rabbit's eyes opened. Ava screamed. The thing twitched, jerked, sat up, but its movements were wrong, like its bones had reformed backward. Its mouth stretched too wide. Its eyes were bleeding. Then it bit Claire. Hard. And Ava dropped it, stomped it, kicked it across the floor until it stopped moving again. Claire sobbed, blood running down her hand, and from the shadows something clapped, slow, deliberate. It was Grandpa, except not entirely. His eyes were missing, replaced with buttons. His teeth were sharp. "Now you've done it," he said, grinning. "You let it in." He knelt beside them, whispered something into Claire's ear, then looked at Ava. "Only one of you is real," he said. "The other was always borrowed." The memory faded. Back in the present, Ava gasped and fell to her knees. She was still in the farmhouse, still, facing the mirror, but now the room was filled with toys, old cracked dolls, wooden horses, child-sized chairs with restraints, and in the center a crib. Inside something moved. Ava stepped forward, dread filling her throat. She looked inside. A baby, sleeping. Perfect, until its eyes opened. Black. Empty. Mirror glass. It opened its mouth, and Ava heard her own voice come. "Out, I should have died instead." The walls shook, the crib shattered. The dolls screamed in unison, mouths stretching wide, arms reaching. Ava ran, tearing through the house, pushing through doors that led to nowhere. She found herself in a hallway full of mirrors. Each reflected a different version of her. One smiling, with a family that didn't exist. One drenched in blood. One staring back at her, whispering, "You don't belong in your own body." She smashed a mirror. Behind the glass, an eye blinked, watching, alive. She turned and ran until she crashed into a door, not just any door. The closet, the one she swore never to open again, where Grandpa kept the old things, where she and Claire once hid for hours, until they heard something laughing inside. But now the door was open, and inside, a staircase. Down. Ava descended, heart in her throat, knuckles white against the wall. At the bottom, a room made of teeth. Human. Teeth all sizes, set into the walls like tiles. In the center, a chair made of hair and bone, and sitting on it, her grandfather, whole, alive, smiling. "Welcome back, little witch," he said. Ava trembled. "What is this place?" He leaned forward. "It's you, every piece of guilt, every memory you drowned. The rooms build themselves around what you bury." "I didn't bury Claire," Ava said. "I loved her. You let her die." "I tried," he interrupted, voice sharp now. "You opened the box. You said yes. That's all it takes." He stood, walking toward her. "You don't remember. The deal, do you?" Ava backed away. "What deal?" He touched her forehead, and suddenly she remembered. The night after the accident. Her body broken in a hospital bed. Claire on life support. The doctors saying she wouldn't survive. And something, some presence, whispering in Ava's mind. Trade, one soul for another, say yes. Ava had whispered yes, but she hadn't understood. She thought she was saving Claire. But instead, the thing took her sister and left Ava behind, in a body not entirely her own. Now her grandfather was nodding. "It took her soul, left you the memories, but the rooms aren't done with you." He reached into his chest and pulled out a mirror shard, dripping with black blood. "You want to undo it? Take it. Find the final room." Ava reached for the shard. The moment she touched it, everything exploded into light. She stood on the shore of the lake again, but this time there was no storm, just stillness, and in the water Claire, waist-deep, arms outstretched, alive, pale, waiting. Ava stepped into the water. It was warm. As she neared, Claire smiled softly. "You came back." "I remember," Ava whispered. "I remember everything," Claire nodded. "You took the deal. You survived. I didn't know what it meant. You do now." They stood face to face. "I'm sorry," Ava choked. Claire leaned in. "It's not about sorry," she whispered. "It's about choice." Suddenly, the lake began to rise around them. The sky cracked open, and the voice, returned. "Choose. One stays, one goes. Decide." Ava stared into her sister's eyes. They were crying, so were hers. Ava stepped back. "I'm not the one who was supposed to live." She took the shard from her pocket and pressed it to her own chest. "Let her go." The water swallowed them. The light vanished. Somewhere in a hospital room, a heart monitor beeped steadily. A young woman gasped awake. Her name tag read, Claire M. Winters. She blinked, stared into the mirror across from her bed. Her reflection smiled, but behind her in the corner a shadow shifted, waiting, watching, because not all trades are clean, and some deals never really end. The thing that followed, her back Claire Winters, opened her eyes to the faint beeping of a heart monitor. A nurse gasped and dropped a tray. Doctors rushed in. People cried. Someone whispered, "Miracle." But Claire didn't hear any of it. All she heard was water. Not the sound of it, the weight, like she was still underwater, like she had never come up for air. She sat up slowly. The air felt wrong, not just hospital sterile, distorted. The window was closed, but the curtains moved like something was breathing behind them. The lights buzzed too loud, and the mirror on the opposite wall, the one directly across from her bed, was covered with a sheet. Claire frowned. "Why's the mirror covered?" she croaked, voice raw and unfamiliar. The nurse hesitated, glancing at the doctor. "You've been in a coma for 4 months, he finally said. "Your sister, Ava, she died," Claire whispered. The doctor blinked. "Yes." Claire looked down at her hands. They didn't feel like hers, not just in the trauma recovery way. She meant literally. They were a little longer, nails bitten differently, a faint scar on the palm she didn't remember getting. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the feeling that something was watching her from inside her skin. That night, when the nurses finally left her alone, Claire stood shakily and pulled the sheet off the mirror. She stared at the reflection. Ava's face looked back, but only for a second. Then it flickered, and it was her. And behind her, the reflection of someone standing in the corner of the room. Claire spun around. No one. She turned back to the mirror. Now the corner was empty, until a message appeared, written in steam across the glass. "You brought it back." Claire stepped back, trembling. She suddenly remembered the lake, the voice, the choice. She hadn't made it. Ava had. Ava had given up her body, her life. And now Claire was here. But something else had come with her, something wrong. Over the next week, Claire began recovering. Doctors were amazed. Her physical therapy was going better than anyone expected. But at night, the whispers came, always from the walls. "You're not real. She made the wrong choice. We want her back." Every time she turned on the light, they stopped. But the shadows, they stayed. She didn't tell anyone, because the voice inside her head, the one that sounded like Ava, whispered, "They'll put you back under. You have to act normal. You have to." So she did, smiling, talking, even laughing. But deep down, Claire felt fractured, as if her soul hadn't fully settled in her body, like she was glitching through existence. One day, she caught her reflection blinking out of sync. Once she opened her hospital closet and found it filled with water. When she blinked, it was gone. Then, a week after waking, Claire received a package, no return address. Inside was a small object, a baby tooth, wrapped in Ava's hair. Claire dropped it, heart racing. On the underside of the box lid, in red ink, "You have one chance to put it back, before it takes your place." That night, she dreamed of the rooms, endless corridors, all the same farmhouse Ava described. Every door leading to another version of a memory. She wandered them. She found the lake again, found Ava, or what was left of her, standing in the shallows, face pale, eyes mirror black. Claire sobbed. "I'm so sorry." Ava didn't speak. She just pointed. Claire turned. One of the doors in the forest wall was open. Inside her childhood bedroom, she stepped through, and the room slammed shut behind her. She woke up screaming, and this time she wasn't in the hospital bed. She was home, Ava's apartment. Everything was exactly how she remembered, or how Ava remembered. Photos of them both. A sweater still draped on the chair. Her sister's scent in the air, that faint mix of cinnamon and earth. But Claire didn't remember coming here. She opened the front door. The hallway outside was gone, just black space, and from behind her, a voice. "Welcome home, Claire." She turned. It was her grandfather, but twisted, taller than before, mouth too wide, fingers stained with ash. He walked forward, dragging something behind him, a mirror, cracked, familiar. Claire backed away. "You don't belong here," he said, grinning. "You cheated the trade." "I didn't ask for this," he laughed. "No one asks, they just pay." Suddenly, the mirror rose on its own and hovered in the air, and in its reflection, Claire saw a different version of herself. Not the broken girl, not the survivor. This one was smiling, peaceful, whole. Claire reached toward it. The glass cracked, blood oozed out, the mirror shattered, and the room turned to ash. She woke up again. In the real apartment this time, the mirror in the hallway was cracked. Blood smeared on her fingertips. She didn't remember breaking it. The whispers returned, this time from inside her mouth. She opened it slowly in the mirror, and her reflection whispered, "You're not the only one wearing someone else's skin." Desperate, Claire reached out to Dr. Hale, the grief therapist Ava once mentioned. They met at a neutral space, a quiet retreat house in the mountains. Dr. Hale listened calmly as Claire described everything, the dreams, the shifting mirrors, the wrongness in her body. He didn't laugh, he didn't even blink. Instead, he handed her a photo, a group of women, all smiling, all dead. "My other patients," he said softly. "Each came to me after surviving something impossible, a death, a possession, a resurrection." Claire looked closer. One of them was Ava. "What is this?" Dr. Hale folded his hands. "There's something ancient that lives in grief, in trades, in rooms we shouldn't open. Some call it the revenant. Others call it mirror hunger, but all of them brought something back with them." Claire trembled. "What happened to them?" He didn't answer, just slid her another object. A key, brass, cold. "This will unlock the final room." Claire stared at it. "If I open it, what happens?" He stood. "You find out what really came back and whether it's really you behind your eyes." That night, Claire took the key and unlocked the basement door of Ava's apartment. Inside, it wasn't a basement anymore. It was the lake again, black, still, smelling of rot and ash. Ava stood at the edge, but this time, she wasn't alone. Beside her was Claire, a different version, pale, smiling, wearing the green hoodie Ava loved. They both looked at her and spoke in unison, "Time to choose again." The water surged, the door behind her slammed shut. The light dimmed and the voice returned, "Two souls, one body, who do you want to be?" Claire fell to her knees, sobbing because she finally understood. She had never really come back alone. There was still another presence inside her, one that had followed Ava through the rooms, through the trade, through death itself. And now it was waking up inside her bones, inside her mind. Her skin began to ripple, her fingers twisted. She opened her mouth, and someone else's voice came out. "I choose me, the room that doesn't forget." Claire stood at the edge of the water, staring at herself, one version smiling, one screaming silently inside. Ava didn't speak, not this time. Her eyes were hollow, her mouth stitched shut by strands of wet hair. She stood like a monument to regret. The other Claire, the smiling one, tilted her head, like a curious child. Her face looked just slightly off, like it had been reassembled by someone who had only seen a human once. "I'm what came back," the thing said softly. Claire took a step back. Then, "What am I?" The smile widened. "You're the echo." Then she lunged. Claire didn't scream. She just ran through the blackened woods, up the stairs of Ava's apartment that shouldn't have led anywhere, and burst through the basement door back into the world of the living. She slammed it shut behind her, except there was no door. She was in her own apartment. No lake, no Ava. Just her and silence. She rushed to the bathroom mirror. This time the reflection didn't move. It only stared until the mirror shattered on its own from inside. Not a crack. An explosion. Tiny shards embedded into her cheeks. Her neck, her blood ran red, but her reflection's eyes ran black. Claire collapsed to the floor, gasping, bleeding, whispering to herself, "I'm still me. I'm still me." But even as she said it, she wasn't sure anymore. The next day, Dr. Hale called, except the voice on the phone was not his. It was Ava's, not alive, not dead. Just wrong. "I found it," the voice said. "Found what?" Claire whispered. "The original room. The first. A door where it all began." Claire didn't want to go, but her body moved anyway. She drove 5 hours north, through winding roads, into fog, past the sign that read Alders Hollow, population 0, no town, just a field. In the center stood a house, impossibly old, black wood, red windows, no path, no sound. The door opened before she knocked, and standing inside was her mother. But that wasn't possible. Her mother died when she was 9, and yet there she stood, wearing the same bathrobe from the night she overdosed. Claire's knees buckled. "Mom!" Her mother smiled, but it wasn't a smile. It was showing teeth. "Come inside, baby. It's a time." The house felt alive. The walls pulsed like muscle. Every photo on the walls had Claire's face, but wrong, twisted, contorted, smiling when she should have cried. At the end of the hall was a door made of mirrors, and on it, engraved, in blood, "The room that doesn't forget." Claire turned to her mother. "What's in there?" Her mother tilted her head. "You are," then grabbed Claire by the wrist and shoved her through. The room was endless. It wasn't a room at all, more like a consciousness. It rippled like a water, but everything was made of memories. Thousands of doors lined the walls, all labeled. The day Ava chose you, the night Mum died, what really happened under the lake. And then, at the center, one door stood open. A voice whispered behind it, not Ava, not Claire, not her mother, but something older, something cold. It spoke in a language she didn't know but understood. "Return the soul that was borrowed." Claire stepped through. Inside, she saw everything. The night Ava drowned, Claire hadn't just begged her to stop. She had pushed her, not with malice, but out of terror. Ava had been trying to pull her under, to trade places. Even then, even before the lake had cursed them, something else was whispering in Ava's head. Something that had come into the family long before either of them were born. She saw her mother, saw the ritual she performed the night Claire was born, to protect her second child from the curse of the mirrored soul. But the ritual had backfired. Instead of protecting Claire, it had marked her. That's why Ava had always seen things that weren't there. Why she talked to mirrors. Why she disappeared for days. She had been trying to find the room that doesn't forget, and she had, but only half-crossed. She was never whole again. Claire fell to her knees, sobbing. "I didn't know. I didn't mean to." The voice echoed. Again, "One soul, one body, choose." Suddenly the doors around her all slammed shut. One remained open. Inside, she saw Ava, chained, sobbing. The smiling Claire stood beside her. "Pick one," the thing said. Claire stared. "Why do I have to choose?" The thing smirked. "Because no door stays open forever. Claire took a breath, then walked toward Ava. Ava looked up. "You came back. I never left." Claire touched her sister's face, and for the first time felt whole, like two halves of a broken mirror finding each other. She turned to the E. Smiling one, "You're not either of us." It grinned. "No, I'm what grief makes when it's ignored." Then it lunged, but this time Ava stood, and so did Claire. Together they pushed it back, screaming, burning. It shrieked as cracks formed. In the room around them, in the fabric of reality itself, Claire grabbed Ava's hand. "We go together," and jumped into the unknown. She woke up in her own bed. The sun was rising. Ava's voice whispered, "You chose right." Claire sat up. Her reflection blinked in sync. The mirror didn't whisper. The house didn't breathe. She was whole, but on. Her nightstand was a photo of her and Ava, smiling, but in the background, just barely visible, the smiling Claire watching. And underneath the photo, a new message had appeared, scratched into the wood. "Some doors never stay locked. Some doors never stay locked." Claire didn't speak for 3 days, after waking in her bed with Ava's voice echoing in her head. "You chose right." Something inside her had gone quiet. Too quiet. The smiling reflection was gone. The strange whispers had faded. The mirror hadn't bled since that night, but Claire couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching. Not haunting, not hunting, just waiting. Then, on the 4th night, she woke up with a dried petal on her pillow. It was black, crumbling, and cold to the touch. She didn't own flowers. Not anymore. She went to the mirror. Her reflection was normal, but as she turned to walk away, it didn't. It stayed, frozen, then smiled, not wide, just a twitch, enough to say, "I'm still here." Claire threw a towel over it and stumbled back, chest pounding. That's when she saw her closet door was open. Just slightly. She hadn't opened it in weeks. Inside, she found an old box labeled Claire and Ava, summer camp. Photos, letters, journals, and a single envelope she didn't remember putting there. It had her name on it, and inside one sentence, "It's not over until the first door is locked." She froze, because she remembered now there was one more door, in the room that doesn't forget. One they'd never opened. One that stood alone, away from the others, covered in chains and wax seals, and above it, carved in scorched wood. "The beginning bleeds the end." Claire packed a bag, lit a candle, and whispered into the dark, "Ava, if you're still with me, help me finish this." And the candle flickered, then turned blue. Alder's Hollow was gone. Claire drove back to where the field had once been, but there was nothing, just burnt earth and silence. Then she blinked, and the house was there, but it looked different, older, angrier. Its windows were black, like empty eyes. The roof sagged like it had been mourning for 100 years, but the door was open. No knock needed. She stepped inside. The house exhaled. The walls bled, and the voice whispered, "Final offering. Final reckoning." The room that doesn't forget waited at the end of the hall, but this time it didn't ripple. It shook, and inside, the final door pulsed like a beating heart. Chains fell from the frame as she approached. Wax seals hissed and dissolved. And as her hand touched the handle, a memory crashed into her. Ava, age 6, screaming at a blank wall. Claire, hiding behind their mother whispering, "Don't look too long. Don't answer if it calls your name." Claire hadn't remembered until now, because the door had been there then too, calling them since birth. A door no one was ever meant to open. Until now. She stepped through, and the world inverted. Colors vanished. Sound twisted into static. She was standing in a version of her childhood home, but everything was wrong, rotting, half erased, as if the memory itself was decomposing. In the living room, her mother stood at the center, but not the mother Claire remembered. This one had hollow eyes, ash for skin, and a knife in her hand, carving names into the floorboards. Claire. Ava. Claire. Ava. Over and over. bleeding into the wood. Claire tried to speak. Her voice didn't work here, only thoughts did, and the room heard her. It spoke in her own voice. "What are you willing to give to end this?" Claire's answer was simple. Everything. The mirror on the wall shattered, and behind it was Ava, young, afraid, holding something behind her back. Claire stepped closer. Ava revealed it. A mirror shard, the same one from the lake, blood still fresh. On the edge, Claire reached for it, and Ava whispered, "If you take it, you take all of me." Claire nodded. "I already did," and closed her hand around the glass. Blood poured, the room screamed, and the first door began to close, but it fought back. From behind her, the smiling Claire returned. Her teeth were hundreds of tiny mirrors. Her eyes were pits of oil. Her voice was every bad thought Claire ever had. "You were always meant to be mine." Claire didn't run, didn't fight. She turned and stepped into her doppelganger, embracing her like a missing limb. The entity convulsed, shrieked, tried to split her apart from the inside, but Claire held tighter. "I know who I am now," she whispered. "You're the grief I never faced, the guilt I buried, but you're not stronger than the truth." And in that moment, Ava stepped forward, put her hand on Claire's shoulder and said, "Let's lock the door." Together they walked to the first door. The smiling Claire howled, but couldn't follow, not anymore. Claire placed the bloodied shard in the door's keyhole, a perfect fit. The door clicked and closed, forever. Claire woke up in her car, parked outside. Her apartment. The sky was orange with sunrise. No blood, no bruises, no Ava. She climbed the stairs slowly, unsure if she was alive, dreaming, or something in between. Inside her apartment, everything was as she'd left it. Except the mirror was whole. No blood, no cracks, no reflection. Not yet. Claire stood before it waiting, and finally her reflection appeared. No smile, just her, truly her. Behind her, Ava appeared, just for a moment, smiling softly, then fading, a goodbye or a beginning. Claire whispered, "Thank you." And the mirror stayed silent, like it finally had peace. 6 months later, Claire volunteers at a grief center. She tells stories, not about ghosts or demons, but about memory. She teaches people how to sit with their pain, how not to bury it, and every time she passes a mirror, she nods, not in fear, but in acknowledgement of what she survived, what she faced, what she chose. And in the center of her apartment, she's kept one thing from the room that doesn't forget: a locked box, wrapped. In red ribbon inside it, a single shard of mirror, black unmoving, waiting. But the key, gone. Melted the night the door closed, because some doors should never open again. Final message to viewers. She thought she'd destroyed the curse, but some doors never stay locked, not because they're evil, but because memory has its own key. And sometimes the ghost you're running from is you. The end.